We're making no apologies. That's it, so that our people can have access to the land.
Life is difficult, but you must soldier on. Don't give up. If you are a coward, you don't belong here.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Simple Politics. So today, I want us to discuss the aftermath of the meeting that Donald Trump had yesterday with Cyril Ramaphosa. I've seen a lot of reactions from different people, from analysts, from just a lot of people. So I just want to break those down. First of all, interesting, I saw the MK people, some of the MK people, the likes of Julius Zuma, they are saying, no, it's time to unite. The EFF doesn't have to collapse under MK. MK doesn't have to collapse under the EFF, but let's unite. Let's work together. That's what Julius Zuma posted. Then she said, hands off Jacob Zuma, hands off Julius Malema. But I've also seen some of the MK people saying, when I know Malema is making us look bad, like the likes of Khanki. Let me actually read you guys his tweet. And I also saw quite a few tweets from the DA people who are saying Julius Malema is making us look bad. He should be censored. He should be silenced, you know. So, yeah. And I've also seen some positive analysis from the likes of Sizwe Walsh. I was watching his video yesterday. Also positive feedback from Mighty Jamie. However, Mighty Jamie has said Uguti, maybe it's better for the EFF not to sing this song anymore. I've seen reactions from the EFF members saying we're gonna sing this song no matter what. So I mean, there's quite a lot of reactions, mixed reactions. And regarding Cyril Ramaphosa, some people feel strongly that he was done very bad. Seems like they were not prepared or underprepared. And some people are saying, no, Cyril Ramaphosa did extremely well because he stayed calm. Even though he was provoked, he still did not react. So, I mean, he did very, very well under the circumstances. I think he did well by staying calm. The only problem that I personally had was I felt like he could have pushed a little bit more. He could have said, no, this is what I'm trying to say. Someone said when the South African team was preparing, they could have given Ramaphosa facts. Good to know. These are the number of African farmers that are being unalived in South Africa. This is the number of black Afrikaners who are being unalived in South Africa. So they could have prepped him around those points so that when he counterparts and he interjects or tries to answer, he puts the facts on the table. So that even the people, when they go Google that afterwards, they Google the facts. I've also seen reactions from the American reporters. Some of them are saying, no, Ramaphosa was caught out in a lie. Some of them are saying, well, no, Trump was ambushed him and he's just spreading propaganda. So there's a lot of reactions, but let's get to the written ones that people tweeted. Let's first get to that part. Okay, this reaction, I am just only reading this reaction from Khanki because it is said that Khanki is working for some powerful people in the MK. So whatever that he tweets, he's not tweeting something that he says here, and he's tweeting something that he's been told to tweet. So this is why I'm reading his tweet. So he posted, Uguti, if we are being diplomatically, and the reason I'm reading his tweet is because yesterday when Julius Malema tweeted and said grown-ups are gossiping about me, Uhangi commented saying president, comrade president. Now today he's tweeting something different. This is why I'm reading his tweet. So he said, if we are being diplomatically honest, Julius Malema is compromising our international relations for self-seeking reasons, full stop. The chap knows he will never lead South Africa, but continues to sing revolutionary slogans that produce anti-South African sentiments on the international stage. Not that the songs were wrong. Of course, they are revolutionary, but they are to a large extent unnecessary. That's the art of diplomacy. that Juju fails to understand. Oyabo. And knowing Gohanki ke, whatever that he says, it's something, it's a propaganda that they want him to push. So I mean, I take him with a pinch of salt, but I'm only reading it because I'm trying to show you guys the perspective. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, even Mighty Jamie, I heard him say the EFF, maybe it's time for them to stop singing the song. So I don't know, what do you guys think about this song? Do you think the EFF should stop? The same EFF, if it stops, people say, oh, EFF is a flip-flopper. You know, I mean, when the EFF stands by their sentiments or their ideologies, no, the EFF, maybe they should let this go. So it's quite strange and tricky how people want to control what the EFF does. Again, EFF is a 9% party. EFF is a 9% party. It can't be that every single person is invested in what the EFF does. 9%. 9%. It can't be that everyone is so invested. Like, it just does not make sense to me. It does not make sense. It baffles my mind, in fact. And you know, TD, Clement, and Zianda, they all had an interview with CNN. I am going to attach the clips of their interviews at the end of this. But yeah, let's just get into more reactions. I think the EFF has released a statement. Let me just see how long it is. If it's not too long, I'm going to read it. But if it is long, then I am not going to read it because I don't want this to be a long video. In this video, I'm just reacting mostly in what people have said and how people are feeling. You know, of course, the fight is 100% behind the EFF and CIC Julius Malema, supporting him 100%. Of course, everyone who's not an EFF member is finding excuses to blame this on Julius Malema, and I still don't understand how you can blame this on Julius Malema. Everyone is saying Julius Malema makes us look bad. Julius Malema is a 9% party. You can't say Julius Malema is making us look bad. The same Julius Malema you say is irrelevant on a daily basis. On a daily basis, people say Julius Malema is irrelevant, but when something happens, it's blamed on Julius Malema. Julius Malema is not in power, but when there's foreigners, it's blamed on Julius Malema. So it's quite strange how people want to blame things on Julius Malema when they go wrong and then tell him that is irrelevant. It's very, very strange. So I think right now, guys, I am going to play the clips. I can't find the tweet from Uta. I don't know if her name is Tammy or Temran from the DA. I'm going to play the clips from the reaction from the journalists that were there in the White House, because I feel like it's more interesting coming from them because they were there. Clement Manyatela, Zianda Ngobo, Tsidimadia. So I'm going to try and find their reactions from the CNN interview, and then I'll play that for you guys so that you can get an idea of what they felt and what they saw, and what they think went wrong, that could have been prevented. I saw Fikile Mbalula tweeting and praising Cyril Ramaphosa, saying he's done extremely well. Of course, Fikile Mbalula's ANC is supposed to say Cyril Ramaphosa has done well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think.
His Oval Office meeting. Eyewitness News is in Johannesburg?
Eyewitness News is a media house in Johannesburg, provides state news to at least 4 radio stations and an online platform.
Okay, great. So President Trump had his aides queue up a video that he claimed showed that there is persecution against white South Africans. Let's just run a little clip of it.
Turn the lights down and just put...
So for people who saying kill the Boer, that's a reference to white South Africans, basically, or people of what, Dutch ancestry? How would you describe it?
I think it depends on who you're asking. Okay. What does it mean, kill the Boer?
Yeah, well, tell me what it means. Kill the Boer, kill the farmer.
I need to put it in historical context,
yes,
to be fair.
Please.
It is a song stemming from the apartheid era. The Boer, the farmer, equated to the system that was in charge, an oppressive regime at that. So that song, that chant, was about killing that particular system. It's been a contentious song, and we continue to go back and forth about its relevance in modern day South Africa, because you're now in democratic South Africa. But you also have the constitutional courts and the laws saying that actually it is very much in line with freedom of speech in the political space, that there is relevance for those kind of things about who and what we are. Now it's a question really about whether or not it's distasteful to continue chanting, shoot the kill the boer, the farmer, as opposed to actually an instruction to actually go out and target farmers.
But when there is actual violence against white farmers and black farmers too, of course, is it not questionable to be chanting that?
I did say to you there's a question and a back and forth on the question of whether it's tasteful or not.
But I'm asking you.
Whether it's not relevant or not. That's what South Africans are trying to debate.
What do you think?
I go back and forth about what that is. I'm a journalist. I'm an observer like you.
Right.
So I don't have a skin in the game to say what's wrong or right about this particular chant. I think that the Constitution and the democracy does allow for it. I think South Africa also needs to be understood as an incredibly robust and loud democracy. We are that. We thrive ourselves as a nation on how free we are. We relish that freedom. Has a ton of problems, Jake. There are no questions that South Africa is shrouded in problems. But part and parcel of that is that. So the question becomes, should you continue singing the song? Is it tasteful at a time like this when race relations are starting to intensify again? And it's fringe groups that are spurring this on. Your Afri-Forums are fringe groups that didn't find an audience today, didn't find a space in Trump's performance today. I was in the Oval Office. It paid no mind, but there is a question about whether or not this is what you need to continue doing. And that's one that Julius Malema has been asked quite often by even black leaders, political leaders, and commentators have said, is this what you should be doing at this point in time? But there are those who agree that actually it is harmless, that it's got its place in history, and that it can still exist. Again, that's an argument that still goes back and forth in the country.
So do you think President Ramaphosa was prepared for President Trump to press him on this?
I have interesting views about whether I felt that South Africa's delegation was prepared, or at least prepared enough. I do think that they knew that they were walking into a trap.
They did, yeah, okay.
I don't think that they were clueless. They were confident. At times, I'd even say to them, it sometimes feels like a little bit too confident. We've seen what Donald Trump does. The one thing that's a marker of the US president right now is uncertain, unpredictable, and we tend to know that he relies on tricks to prove a point. And so I do think that they did understand. Did they expect to see a screen come up and a visual reference to what he's claiming is happening in South Africa? I don't think so. I also just very quickly, Jake, if you let me, want to speak about the visuals. You cannot for a second claim that there's genocide and that's what you produce. South Africa claims that there's genocide happening in Palestine, that Israel is guilty, goes to the ICJ, is asked to provide evidence of this. And what do? They provide wads and wads and wads of evidence. Donald Trump claims that there is supposedly a genocide in South Africa. What does he do to prove it? To put up chants of Julius Malema. Surely that devastation exists. In that particular room, you had South Africans saying, we have a problem. Crime is rampant in the country. You've had Zingiswa Losi, who's head of COSATU, which is the labor federation there, the largest one, describing the atrocities being visited upon the elderly women in South Africa. Everybody recognizes there's a problem. It isn't targeted at particular people. For the life of me, a president of the US, with everything he's got access to try and prove a point about what's happening, that's all you could produce today. I found that interesting.
Yeah, we should just note that obviously the government of Israel and the government of the United States deny that there's a genocide in Gaza right now, but I take your point as to evidence.
But you should have shown something different.
Evidence versus words. Thank you so much. Sources were right that the Trump administration had a plan to, quote, embarrass the president of South Africa. What did you make of today's meeting?
So what happened today, Jake, was actually what I was told is exactly going to happen. I had a few meetings with some Republicans, even some Democrats this week, as soon as I arrived in DC earlier this week, and they said, we don't think President Ramaphosa actually knows what he's going to be walking into. He's going to be utterly embarrassed. And as soon as I started hearing that, I spoke to the presidency's team and I was asking them, how ready are you for any possibility of an embarrassment, of a dressing down, of a repeat of a Zelensky-like moment? And they said, we're over-prepared. If we are going to confront a situation where we see a dressing down, we have a president who knows how to stay calm, a president who is a skilled negotiator, and he's going to be able to handle that situation.
So Clement alluded to the Zelensky meeting, obviously.
Yanda Nobo, a senior politics reporter for Newsroom Africa, and we've got Shelby Talcott, Zolan Kano-Youngs, and Michael Shear here as well. I want to start with you, though, given, being inside that room, watching this all play out, actually things have been going smoothly.
Yeah.
You may not realize that if you're watching the highlights that we're showing.
Yeah.
They were talking about golf, and there was a lot of laughter, and it was when a reporter asked about genocide that things really took a turn.
It was actually me who asked
You
that.
asked that question.
Yes, because I asked, what would it take, President Trump, to convince you that there is no white genocide in South Africa? And then you would have seen that President Trump-Ramaposa opted to say, I'll answer that. And as he was responding, that's when Donald Trump asked to have the lights turned down low and played that video of a South African party leader who is a minority. It's the fourth biggest party in the country. And even those crosses, I think you would have heard President Ramaphosa asking whether or not President Trump has been told about where exactly this is, because for those of us in the room, we also couldn't quite pinpoint where exactly in South Africa those crosses might be located. So insofar as that is concerned, it was very interesting to watch how President Trump actually repeated those false claims and didn't quite answer the question as to what would it take.
When he was preparing for his trip here, I noticed the president said he wanted to disabuse Trump of some of his misguided views.
Yep.
Did he have any idea of what was awaiting him in the Oval Office today?
Absolutely, and the South African government was clear in its communication that they're preparing for all eventualities. Just last week, you welcomed those 50-odd white Afrikaners into the U.S. It's clear that they've been doubling down. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on another channel was also doubling down on those falsehoods. So the South African government was fully aware of what could have come, even perhaps having those white Afrikaners rolled out in the Oval Office. So we were prepared for an ambush of sorts, and that's why back home there was lots of talk about the importance of Cyril Ramaphosa, the man, and how he would show up in that moment, given his experience as a negotiator, negotiating from an apartheid regime into a democratic dispensation. And that became critical in how he responded and allowed Trump to speak, but trying to push back, but not in a manner that baited him into some kind of a fight that would ultimately play into the political theater that has become the Oval Office.
Yeah, it was just remarkable to watch. Zolan, what were your takeaways?
I know what you guys think, because I think this has been such an interesting, just an interesting perspective overall. Again, still, Julius Malema, everybody wants to blame CIC Ukuti. If Julius Malema wasn't singing these songs, then we wouldn't have these problems. So Julius Malema is making the country look bad. Like, what? Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand that. Anyway, and I'll see you guys on the next one. If you don't know who I am, my name is Isabella Pelana. Please subscribe to this channel. It is free of charge. And let's meet on the next one. Aluta, continua.